We live in a world obsessed with what it's against. But what if we flip that? What if a church wasn't known for its opinions, but for its impact? What if we were for people, for community, for this city, for a better life, real, grounded, transformed by something bigger than us? This isn't branding, it's what we believe, to belong, to make a difference, to believe there is still hope for tomorrow. So here is the question: what are you for?
So I remember this day so clearly. It was last year, Thursday before Christmas, and our marketplace food bank line was hopping. Now, for those of you that don't know, every first and third Thursday of the month, our For Aurora marketplace happens. And what that looks like is that we give away boxes of groceries, dairy, meat, about 250 boxes. And then we make hot meals so that people don't have to worry about what to cook that night. They just bring dinner home after marketplace, about 750 meals. All of this takes close to 100 volunteers. We sometimes show up as early as 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we serve our line from 4 to 6 p.m. But people start showing up 12:30 in the afternoon. And I'm not sure why, because I will say this. In the 5 years that we've been doing Marketplace this week, we've run out of food one time. And what that will look like was, that was November 16, 2023, and our numbers that fall had just been going up and up and up. In September, we're doing 300 boxes, we're doing 900 meals. That day, we did 420 boxes, and we did 1,160 meals. But there were 3 cars that showed up after 6 p.m., after we were done. And Kelvin had already gone to King Soopers, bought $50 gift cards to give them. We still had hot meals. I mean, back in that kitchen, it is like Jesus with the loaves and the fish sometime. We're not sure where the food's coming from, but we just keep pulling it out. And I tell you that because despite never running out of food, people still line up at 12:30. Shout out to my man Dave, who is in first in line every single week. But this day, I look out my window upstairs of my office, and I notice that the line is going all the way. We go this way around the building. It's all the way around the building. It's all the way down the side of the building, past the dumpster, past Starbucks. And when I look out, I realize that people are trying to turn into the parking lot, and they are stuck out on Smoky Hill Road. This is not good. Aurora PD does not like this. So I throw on my coat and I run downstairs and I start making the line double wide all the way around the back of the building. And by the time we're ready to start the line moving at 4 p.m., I've gotten the line just past the dumpster, so we are no longer blocking traffic on Smoky Hill. We are, however, blocking all of the staff in that have parked on this side of the building over here. Now, granted, we knew it was gonna be a big week. We told them to move their cars at 2 p.m., but I guess some of them forgot. And I just remember, I took a picture because it was double wide lines. And then this person's trying to get out of the staff. I can't tell who that is. If we zoom in a little bit. I think that's Pastor Tom in his Jeep right there. Yeah, and then he had to drive over the curb to get home after that. But just after this, the line started moving, and I was about ready to go back inside, and I see a beautiful, what looks like a 4-door Jeep Wrangler pull into the parking lot. I'm just assuming they're going to Starbucks, and I noticed it because this is my dream vehicle. I mean, lifted, big tires. If only I could drive a vehicle this cool, but it's just a little or a lot out of my price range. But then the car turns and it heads right towards me, towards the food bank line. And I instantly think, you've got to be kidding me, right? Like, if they can afford that Jeep, they can afford groceries. And if they can't afford groceries, they shouldn't have bought that Jeep. I'm supposed to be out here helping people, and here I am judging this person hardcore the minute they pull their Jeep towards me. The Jeep pulls up to me, rolls down the window, and the woman inside immediately starts crying. She asks if this is where she can get food. She tells me she never thought she would be in a food bank line in her life. She tells me that she has lost her job. And I realized right away, this lady's in survival mode. Maybe you're thinking like she should sell the Jeep and be able to buy groceries. Yeah. She hadn't even had time to do that. She's so embarrassed. She has no food, no money, and she tells me she hasn't eaten since Tuesday. Oof. Instantly, I am convicted, right? Like Jesus is saying directly to me, do you not remember the fact that God said he didn't send his son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world? It's like God was saying to me, listen, Kendal, I didn't come to condemn people, so we're not gonna start now. No judgment. This was Thursday at 4 p.m., and this woman hadn't eaten since Tuesday. I told her that when you get around the building, they're gonna give you a box of food. Eat that right away. I said, how many meals do you need for people at home? She said, it's just me, just one. I said, well, you tell them you need 4. And you eat one now, you eat one when you get home, you save the rest for the rest of the week, whatever it takes. This is what it looks like for our church to be for Aurora. We help other people without judgment, without condemnation, without guilt, without shame, without an agenda. We provide help. We provide dignity, and we are always looking for how we can give a hand up rather than a handout. Would you pray with me as we get started this morning? God, thank you for the people in this room and what they do for your community. Thank you for the people that line up around our building, that interact with us through For Aurora, and how much you love them. God, I pray today our hearts would be challenged. God, I pray that we would see and know and understand your love for us and the way that you want to show us to show that love to the people around us. It's in your name we pray. Amen. So we're in the middle of a series called For. But what does that mean, right? What does the word for mean? It's a tough word to define. I went this week and I looked up the definition, and it's a preposition. That doesn't mean anything to me. I'm sure that meant something when I was in high school or whatever, but I seem to remember something like that. But it said it was used to indicate purpose, like why you do something. Like For Aurora exists for helping people, right? And then it said it's used to indicate intention, like how something is supposed to help. Like those parking spots are for me to be able to double the line, not for you to park in, Tom, right? That's for that. And then it's also used to indicate who's benefiting from something, like who's the beneficiary of what's being done. We are for Aurora. Now the opposite of the word for is against, right? We've got for on one side, against on the other side. And against, this one is so much easier to define. This is like being opposed to something. It's much more difficult to tell what something or someone is for rather than what they are against. Like this week, for instance, I just took a few moments, not very long. I went on social media. I checked out some influential Christian influencers, some churches' Instagram pages, some pastors' Instagram pages, and immediately I could tell what they were against. Because a lot of us, we can find people and we can find churches against everything. In just a couple minutes, I found people that were against certain versions of the Bible. They were against racism. They were against Democrats. They were against Republicans. They were against government in general. They were against wokeness. They were against women. They were against immigrants, against LGBTQ people. They were against yoga. They were against other churches. They were against abortion. They were against other pastors, against religion, against lying, against being fake, against meditation, against rich people, against poor people, against the Pope, against Russia, you name it. And someone is going to be against it. Now, Jeff Henderson, a pastor and author who really started the FOR movement that churches are doing, he said this. He said, in a hypercritical, cynical world, one that is often known for what it's against, let's be a group of people known for who and what we're for. Because honestly, it's much easier to be against things than it is to be for. So today I want to unpack what it means to be for Aurora. In order to do that, first, let's talk about living for. Living for something. We have a beautiful picture of what it means to live for. We see this in the very beginning when the first church started. When we find this description in Acts chapter 2. For those of you that were here last week, Tom led us through Acts chapter 15. This whole series is based in the book of Acts. There's even a reading plan at ehills.org/weekend if you want to read along through the book of Acts. But Jesus has gone back up into heaven, and his apostles, Jesus' disciples, his buddies, his followers, his best friends, they start preaching and teaching in Jerusalem about Jesus. And 3,000 people believe in Jesus and are baptized. It's amazing. The church is beginning, not like an E-Hills church, but like the Big C church, the church that all Christians today are a part of. And Acts chapter 2 tells us how they acted. I want to read it to you. It says this: they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and they had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Put simply, these people were living for. They were living for each other. So this for Aurora, this isn't a program or a brand that we came up with. This has been a way of life born into the hearts of followers of Jesus since the very beginning of the church. They were sharing responsibility for food. They were living in community. They praying with each other. They were taking care of each other. If there was a need, whether that was financially or material goods, they were taking care of it. It was a beautiful thing that was full of grace and equality and love. And in Acts chapter 4, a couple chapters later, it goes on to say that this continued to develop over time. It says this: all the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus. And God's grace was so powerfully at work in them all, that there were no needy persons among them. From time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone who had need. They were for Jerusalem, right? 2,000 years ago, they were living for. And living for is way better than living against. But it didn't last very long. In fact, literally, that's right before the last verse of chapter 4. It tells us about a guy named Barnabas who sold a field and brought the money to the apostles so that everyone could share and meet the needs of the people around them. That's the last verse of chapter 4. The very first verse of chapter 5 tells us about a couple named Ananias and Sapphira that sold a field, and they kept some of the money for themselves and only brought some of the money to the apostles. The husband came first, and when he only gave part of the money, literally God struck him down dead right there. Then his wife comes, and Peter, who's one of the apostles, he gives her a chance to make it right. He says, "Is this all the money that you got from the sale?" And she says, "Yes, this is all the money we got from the sale of the land." And God strikes her down too. And the lesson here is that if you don't volunteer for service week next week, God is going to strike you. No. Actually, what happened to Ananias and Sapphira is pretty common. It's part of our sinful nature. It's part of us as human beings. We live out of a place of self-preservation in our lives. We want to live life in a way that we survive, that we avoid harm. Simply put, we call it selfishness. And what happened with Ananias and Sapphira is that they didn't trust God. They didn't trust God to take care of them. They didn't trust the church and the apostles to provide for their needs, and they held back. They held back money for themselves just in case God doesn't come through. And if we're being honest, we all do the same thing. See, we naturally do things that help us out. We naturally do things that benefit us rather than benefiting other people. Living selfishly comes naturally. Living for others does not come naturally. Jesus, he even tells a story, a parable, which is basically like a metaphor with a deeper spiritual meaning. And he says, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, while anyone who hates their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. We're like that kernel of wheat, that seed. We think that we're alive. We think that we're holding our life together, trying to preserve our lives, thinking that being a seed is just the greatest thing, right? But in actuality, being a seed isn't that great. A seed in a little bag doesn't do much good, right? It's not great until it's put in the ground, buried, and decomposing. Only then can a seed truly come to life, become a plant that helps everyone around it and that actually produces even more seeds. And maybe that's you. Maybe you're feeling like there's got to be more to this life. And this is it. What Tom talked about last week, the deeper life Tom was talking about, this is what we are talking about. We think that we need to live for ourselves to survive, but we don't start living until we are living for others. This is so counterintuitive. It's the opposite of what culture is telling us. Take care of yourself. Be against everything else. But we have to put to death that kind of thinking in our lives, and we have to start living our lives for others. It's why Paul, he was one of the first followers of Jesus and a church planter, is bringing the good news of Jesus all over the known world, anywhere he could. It's why he writes things like this in Romans chapter 12. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. We give up our lives, our desires, our wants, so that other people can experience the love and provision that God has for all of us. Paul says it another way. He says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. See, living for others is about living a life towards everyone around you. Let me say that again. Living for others is about living a life towards everyone around you, even when they don't deserve it, even when you don't like them, even when they don't like you, even when they aren't like you. Maybe they don't look like you, they don't talk like you, they don't vote like you, they don't think like you. But offering compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, and forgiveness, we can make the world a better place, a more loving place by living for others instead of ourselves. And we don't just do this to be good people. We do this because we love Jesus. We do this because this is how Jesus treated us. But I'll be honest, it takes practice. It takes work. And some of you are sitting here right now, and I know that you're getting pumped up, right? You're like, yeah, let's do this, Kendal. Let's take on world hunger, right? Let's stop homelessness or poverty. And maybe we just need to work on getting our hearts moving in the right direction. Getting our hearts moving towards our neighbor, towards our coworker, towards our family. Maybe we just need to start small. So drilling this down, first of all, we are called to live for, not against. And we are called to live for others, not just ourselves. And specifically for us at E-Hills, we are called to living for Aurora, living for our community. Can I just say this? You do this so well. You show up, you show out, you work hard, you make a difference. E-Hills has a reputation in this community for being for Aurora. When I wear my t-shirt into Sam's Club and I come out with 500 hamburgers, buns, chips, and sodas, the lady at the door asks me, who are we feeding today? The homeless liaison for Cherry Creek Schools recently told me this, that For Aurora has built such great relationships with schools that now schools only reach out to her office after they've already reached out to us. Can I just shout out Kelly Terracone, who is our volunteer school liaison. She fields all of those calls every week. Schools don't normally trust churches. And yet we are the first place they call when they have families in our community that need help. Can I give you some stats from our impact report this past year? You can find this online at ehills.org/weekend. But being for Aurora means marketplace, where over 28,000 pounds of food was distributed, 16,000 hot meals, 5,500 boxes of groceries. 120 backpacks go home each week with kids who struggle with food insecurity over the weekend. They eat free and reduced breakfast and lunch at school every day, but on the weekends, they don't have that. And a couple weeks ago, in that backpack went home an Easter invitation. And we had a family show up on Easter. Kelvin got to meet with them, and the mom looked at her daughter and said, "This is the church that gives those backpacks full of food to our family." Supporting and partnering 18 local schools. A food truck that promotes For Aurora visibility, brings people encouragement through food. A Thanksgiving food drive that packed 1,108 boxes, serving an estimated 5,500 people. Christmas store that allowed the parents of 704 kids to bless their children with 2 gifts, tons of stocking stuffers and sweet treats for Christmas. Partnering with over 20 local ministries, including Socks Place, where a small group from Eastern Hills, a small group this past year prepared 7,500 meals for homeless teens who visit Socks Place every day. It's fixing a broken window after a domestic violence situation when a school social worker calls because a single mom doesn't have the money to fix it. It's paying first and last month's rent for a family of refugees so that they can get a fresh start in a new country. For Aurora is literally thousands of volunteers serving and giving tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hours. You, the generous people at Eastern Hills, giving to this ministry almost $200,000 a year to bless our community. And it's not just these like For Aurora ministries, it's our whole church. Alpha is a way of being for Aurora and caring about our community's spiritual health. Grilled Cheese Wednesday is our way of being for Aurora to the high school that we share a property line with. 650 grilled cheese sandwiches get eaten each week by students from Cherokee Trail High School. So I guess I have to make that 19 schools that we partner with. I don't always think about them in that way. Some of you are for Aurora in your neighborhood, your business. You're creating jobs. You're helping out your neighbors. At this point, Kelvin would say, come on, somebody, right? Can we just thank God for what he allows us to be a part of as a community? Come on, yeah. Come on, somebody. Come on. That is awesome. It's unbelievable, but it's exactly what God has called us to do. And I'm so proud to be a part of a church that loves their community in this way. But can I ask you a hard question? How many of you have never been a part of serving with our For Aurora ministry? Don't raise your hand. Remember what happened to Ananias and Sapphira? Like, we don't want any of that. And if you're new, this isn't for you. But let me just say this. You're missing out. You are missing out on living a life. You're living life as a seed rather than growing in the plant that God wants you to be. You are missing out on being a part of a community of people that are working together, and I must say, they are having a great time doing it. So now it's your turn to stop missing out. This week is For Aurora Service Week. Like Kelvin said, you can go to ehills.org/weekend. He said spots are filling up. We still have plenty of spots. If not, I'll find you one, okay? Serve with partner ministries. Serve here at our church building. Serve by picking up trash at the local high school. Like I said before, you know what? Picking up trash might not change the world, but it will change your heart. And it may help you start being for Aurora. It might just become a part of your story, no matter who you are. Maybe you're a couple that's looking for something to do together like Arlie and Sue. Arlie and Sue serve all over E-Hills. They started helping out with For Aurora a few years ago. They've been a huge part of our marketplace. Last year, they started serving on the food truck. And they both came to Casa de Restauración, which is a Spanish-speaking congregation on the west side of Aurora that we partner with. And the Saturday of our service week last year, and to be honest, they fell in love with Pastor Jose, which is easy to do. He will be here on Father's Day. Don't miss it. It's gonna be so good. He fell in love with the people of their church, fell in love with the arepas that they served us for lunch, fell in love with the coffee that they roast to raise funds for their church that, because of Arlie's pushing, we now serve in our coffee shop. And this year, Arlie's leading a team that will be working at Casa on Saturday during service week. Maybe you're a busy professional like Jose, not Pastor Jose, different Jose. You're not sure where you can serve. Jose is a husband, he's a dad. He manages operations and logistics for a giant blue and yellow retail store that you can see off of I-25, and sometimes he travels for his job. He started helping serve dinner for our Alpha group on Wednesday nights. Said, I just want to serve more, but my schedule's super tight. Where can we figure something out? So Kelvin sat down with him, and now he shows up at 6 p.m. after Marketplace, when all the smiling faces of the people receiving groceries and meals, when they're all gone, when all the food has been distributed, he shows up and he washes dishes and cleans up the kitchen. And it's a huge help to the volunteers that have been there all day cooking and serving food. And it's a pretty thankless job, but when he shows up, everybody celebrates. Last week, he took a day off of work to come and work at the food truck at Summit Elementary for Teacher Appreciation Week, because that's where his wife teaches. Maybe you're a grandma, like Judy. I just got a couple more minutes I gotta get through. Just trying to be a good example to your granddaughter. Last year during our Thanksgiving food drive, Judy brought her 12-year-old granddaughter. And during the event, she kind of looked up at her and said, "Grandma, this is one of my favorite things we've done together." She ran home, told her sister, her 9-year-old sister, and now those girls come and serve with their grandma at Marketplace whenever they get a chance. Judy serving is leaving a legacy to her grandchildren that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. These people's story, that can be your story too. So what does being for Aurora really look like? It looks like that first church that we read about in Acts 2, a community that is radically committed to one another. It looks like opening our homes and our tables, making sure people eat, not just out of our abundance, but out of love. It looks like stepping into someone else's need, whether that's financial, physical, emotional, spiritual, and saying, you are not alone in this. It looks like living out compassion, mercy, grace, and love, not as an idea, but as actions, the same way that Jesus showed us those same things, relentlessly, sacrificially, and without condition. We don't do this to be good people. We do this out of our love for Jesus and what he's done for us. So here's the challenge. Don't just think about being for Aurora. Live it. This week, find one way, just one, to meet someone's need. Feed someone, encourage someone, serve someone. Show them what Jesus' love actually looks like. I cannot wait to see how you choose to be for Aurora this week. Let's stand and sing.